If you've been looking for all the ins and outs about Raleigh, North Carolina, you found the right channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and tap the bell below so you can be the first to know about all the changing market conditions here in the Raleigh area. Today, I am with Steve Doherty from Advantage Lending, my preferred lending partner, and we're going to dive into changing interest rates and what it may be coming at the end here of 2025 and how that might impact you. If you like this video, make sure you drop some comments below, and whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, let's connect to talk about what a smooth transition to the Raleigh area looks like for you.
I think most people are in agreement who are paying attention to the market and the Fed, and then maybe the kind of the change that's maybe coming.
Yeah.
That will probably be in a lower interest rate environment sometime in the next 4 to 8 months. Whether that's 3/8 lower or a full percent lower, who knows? But it seems like it is coming. So there's really no drawbacks to lower interest rates, right? Higher purchasing power, lower monthly payment. I'm the finance guy. It sounds perfect to me. What are there any drawbacks that I'm not thinking about?
Drawback is obviously everybody was going to want to get back into the market, right? So there is so much pent up demand in terms of people who want to move that bought a house, 2, 3, 4 years ago, and life has changed. But that interest rate of 2.9 or 3.25 is just locking them into that house, right? And there's a lot of people that look at 6.25 or 6.5, and they think, man, that's just a big jump. And if I could just get under 6%, and I really think about jumping back in the market. So the drawback is, as we come back down, there's going to be more people that come back into the market. And when more people are in the market, there's probably going to be more competition and prices start to kind of increase again. So, your buying power that you think you're getting with that lower interest rate may not actually be real buying power. It might look good on paper, but unless it's timed just perfectly, which some people will do, and people try to do that with the stock market, try to do it everywhere. Probably not the best thing to try to do is
lower interest rates invites more buyers into the market. More buyers equals more demand. Increased demand probably equals higher prices.
Higher prices, and think about that, right? So, it's very common that people have talked about, over the last couple of years, date the rate and marry the house, and which is not something that I have even really said to any of my clients at a certain point. But right now is probably the most appropriate time for that kind of statement, because I think we're going to sometime, whether that's in 2 months or in 6 months, I get the impression that we're going to start to kind of level out in terms of that decreased demand, and it's going to start to increase again. It feels like that to me. And when I'm watching what the Fed is going to do, and you watch, if you dig even deeper into 10-year Treasury, it just seems like that's kind of where we're going to head. And I don't think we're going to see anything like we did during the pandemic, but you are going to if you're going to buy a house a year from now, that's going to cost you $30,000 more than it does today. So
and it's $30,000 less profit theoretically.
And if you date the rate, if you say, okay, you know what, I'm okay at 6.25, or I'm at 6, I'm okay at 6. Get into that house. If it's the right house, go buy that house and spend the $3,000 or $2,500 or whatever it is to refinance that, because it's going to cost you way less than buying a $30,000 house that's $30,000 more a year from now.
Right.
So something that I hear a lot of is, I'm going to wait, especially right now, I'm going to wait until the September Fed meeting, and I'm going to wait until after that to really dive into my buying process, because rates are going to drop then. That's true, isn't it?
So maybe Fed rates will drop, right? But let's rewind to September 2024, right? So everyone pretty much knew, all the market analysts, right? The pricing guys for mortgage-backed securities, everyone saw a Fed cut coming, right? And so they had already included those, they'd already anticipated that mortgage interest rates were already low. They'd already been dropped.
Yeah, I have a lot of people who are disappointed when they saw that, and then they're like, well, wait a minute, I thought the Fed just dropped interest rates, and now I don't see it in the mortgage rates. What happened?
Mortgage interest rates last September actually went up because the Fed didn't cut as much as people anticipated.
Right.
So everyone's waiting for this big cut. Guess what happens? Interest rates went up. People think, how is that even possible, right? So a couple of things to keep in mind. The Fed sets the yield on the Treasury. They do not set mortgage interest rates. Now, they tend to be tethered because they're sort of competing investment vehicles, right? See that just because the Fed cuts rates, mortgage interest rates will exactly follow suit. And then, another thing could happen in any kind of geopolitical event that maybe that rallies the stock market. A rallied stock market usually isn't great news for mortgage-backed securities.
Right.
So kind of long story short is, just because maybe a Fed cut does happen, right? And I really hope it does. It'd be good for my business as well. But just because a Fed cut happens does not necessarily mean that there's a guarantee that we'll have a dramatic improvement to mortgage interest rates. And I think people need to be mindful of that, especially if you're kind of waiting to get into that market. And then that comes, and maybe we're in a busier market and rates haven't dropped, then you have no benefit, right? You haven't gotten anything that you wanted. Now prices are higher on the homes and the interest rates haven't really dropped, right? And you're going to be wishing you could have, rewound life back to September or August. And right now rates aren't bad. That's the other piece of it is you and I talk about this pretty frequently that rates are pretty good right now, but there's not that much activity. So while that's not great for me, I'm not doing as much volume as I typically do. It's pretty good news for a buyer, right? So you kind of get
news for a buyer.
Kind of get the best of both worlds, right? Prices are lower, rates are not bad, right? And maybe you're a little bit insulated by where rates are right now, right? Whereas if we have a big drop in interest rates, like we said, we know what's going to happen. Everyone's going to come out of the woodwork. It's competition is going to heat up. Prices are going to go up. But talk about having your cake and eat it too. If you buy now at maybe a better price now than maybe in February when rates are lower, but let's say rates do drop by then, guess what? You can refinance, like you said. So in that case, you really do get the best of both worlds. You get the lower purchase price now. You're not you're not involved in the feeding frenzy. You're not getting thrown into a shark tank of a really competitive market, and you get to refinance. So you get that good rate that everyone else is waiting for, down the road.
Right. Something I want to be cognizant of as well in that discussion is, when I talk to people that want to move up in their house and they're like, okay, I get this idea of date the rate and marry the house. But when I go and buy that house, or when you go to buy that house, it's important to remember that rate that you're buying it at, you still have to be comfortable with that rate. Mm-hmm. And being comfortable at that rate could be for 6 months, it could be for a year, it could be for 2 years. There's no encouragement incentive on my part to try to tell somebody, hey, let's do this because I want to turn over volume. Right. And you're thinking, man, I can swing that, but I can only swing it for 6 months. Or man, that pushes me to the edge of my limit. And, if there's a blip in my radar in terms of things that may happen, my car breaks down or, wife, loses her job or I'm unemployed for 6 months. You just got to be able to say, okay, I can weather those storms with that rate as well. I'm not talking about tragedy. I'm just saying, hey, you got to be able to manage that.
Yeah, you don't want to bet the farm on a big mortgage interest rate improvement. You don't want to be. You want the refi to be great news. You don't want it to be
a relief,
desperate relief. Yeah, it's going to bail you out, save you from disaster.
Right. So I think it's important that you hear those terms, date the rate and marry the house, and you kind of feel like there's this pressure in the, from realtors or from lenders to say, go jump into this and buy a house now. And it's really, in some cases that might be true because people may not understand exactly what they're talking about. But in this scenario, what we're talking about is hey, really, if it's in the wheelhouse, now is really a good time. And now is probably better than later. Is there an opportunity at some point where the perfect storm comes together, where the interest rates are low and there's low competition? There's going to be a day There's going to be a 24-hour period or a 48-hour period where that is absolutely true.
The sweet spot.
The sweet spot. But just like when you're trying to time the stock market, I mean, anybody who's been around for a minute knows it's not a good idea to time the stock market. It just isn't. It's not a good time. But when's the best time to be in? Right now.
Right.
Again, my name is Pete Marston. I am your local real estate expert here in the Raleigh and Triangle area. I've lived in the area for nearly 20 years, and this is Steve Doherty. He is my preferred lending partner. If you want to get in touch, I will drop my information in the description below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell below as well. I'll also drop Steve's contact information there so you can get in touch with him. And until next time, I look forward to showing you around town.